What's up guys, Crane here from LogicLounge.com. Today is our first part in a multi-part series looking at Debian, a very powerful open source Linux distribution used from everything to web servers to VPNs to custom projects. It's very powerful in its market, and we're going to be doing some how-tos and guides in our multi-part series. Today we're going to be doing some general getting started tips as well as simple securing of your server. There will be more advanced securing servers guides that I will bring out in the later weeks, but today it's just kind of those simple, this is what you should do when you're first getting started with the program. So you can follow along with us in these guides. I'll have all relevant links in the description down below. So let's get started by logging in to our server. Now you can have this in multiple different ways. You can set up a VM, you could have some type of virtualization platform, or maybe you buy a VPS, which is one of the options that a lot of people will go with, as well as even if you have a dedicated server in a data center somewhere, you can do this. So we have this one. It is set up with pretty much bare bones of Debian distributions that you might get from a VPS provider. So the first thing we want to do within getting started is to set up a host name. And this host name will allow us to easily identify the server, as well as allow us to set up a fully qualified domain name to be used with web services if that's what we plan to do. So we're going to echo out the name of the server, and this can be anything. I'm just going to call it VM4 because this is the fourth VM that I have set up on this server. So it's going to be VM4, and we're going to pipe that into @hostname. And using this command, we'll put that text into @hostname, and now on the next reboot, if we had named it something different than VM4, it would be identified as such. And we want to kind of execute this command by going hostname -f, and I'm going to use that same file. So there you go. So that is basically executing that command. Now, there are a lot of things out there that you can do to set up a web server, but it's all going to come down to how your hosts file is set up. So we're going to edit our hosts file, which is an @hosts, and we're going to set it up to replicate what we want it to be within our network. So you can see here it's added 127.0.0.1.localhost, and this is a kind of internal routing for if you were to call it localhost, as well as we have our server IP here along with the name of the server. And I've already set this up beforehand, and it was needed for me to be able to connect to this server. But you want something like this, and you can even set it up further because there's multiple different ways you can do this. You can set it up further by actually putting in a host name as well. So if this was for my domain, so CreightonMiller.com, it would set that up to associate the IP to CreightonMiller.com, and the host name for the server is VM4. Now we can do that, or you can have it be some sort of generalized domain name, but this will allow it to validate itself with a fully qualified domain name, and that is something that has to be done for it to do a lot of different things. But having the IP in there and just the host name can work as well. The second thing we want to do, or I guess this is the third thing we want to do, is to configure the time zone for the server, because this server could be anywhere in the world, and whether we want that to replicate our local time zone or maybe the server's time zone, we want to do that. And to do that, we use a wonderful command called dpackage. So dpkg tac reconfigure. And this is how you reconfigure a lot of different packages that you may install within Debian. And then we're going to do tzData. So what that is going to do is, and now it's going to bring us into a nice graphical prompt asking us to select our time zone. Now I happen to know that this server is in the Eastern US. So I'm going to click America, and I'm going to click New York because that's the closest thing. So you can see that it's set our local time now to Tuesday, May 5th, and the universal is Wednesday, May 6th, due to time zone differences. So you can set this up to, like I said, your local time zone or the server's time zone. I tend to actually like to do it within the time zone that the server is in, just so times and I know everything is working. So next we're going to check to see if there are any updates to packages, because when you install a bare bones Debian distribution, or if you get it from a VPS provider, they're not going to be terribly up to date. And we want to make sure that we have the latest packages. But before we do that, we need to set up our sources list. Now, some providers will create their own sources list using their own local data, but sometimes that can cause issues, and I tend to like to go right down to the root of the packages. Now, to do this, I actually use a separate program, or website really, called debgen.simplylinux.ch. This will create a sources list generator. This is nice because it allows you to get the packages that you want in the locations that you want, and you can have it at relatively better than what your VPS provider may have for you, and even have packages in there that may not even be available coming in the default version. So first off, in this website, you can select your country. I know that if it's in the US, I want to click US, or if it's in Canada, click Canada, because then it will select those locale servers. So I know that my server is in Canada. It actually is in Canada. So I select Canada. I know that we're using the stable distribution, which is Wheezy, and I'm using a 64-bit architecture. From here, I usually select all of the select sources. So I do main, contrib, non-free, security, updates, and I usually like to include the source packages as well. This can make it a lot easier for any troubleshooting or reinstallations down the line. And when you click generate, it will then create this nice text file for you. You want to copy everything in here and then bring it on into your terminal window. And from here, you want to edit a file as root or as sudo, and we'll get into sudo later. So we're going to edit the et, and we want apt, apt, and sources.list. Now you can see I already have what I copied in here from beforehand. So this will make sure that I have the correct packages available to me when I want to do everything. And from here, it's just a simple apt get apt-tact get update, and then it will run through those packages looking for changes, looking for new versions, and then apt get upgrade. These are practically the two best commands, or the two commands that you really want to know, is the apt get and the upgrade and install commands as well. So now we have that in there. It tells me that there's no packages available for update or upgrade, which is great because I know that this was a latest install and it already had put in all of those. So fantastic, we have everything up to date. And if it had upgrades, it would ask you to say yes or no to those upgrades. I would of course say yes, because this is bare bones. We know that nothing is going to get lost or damaged if we install upgrades. So that pretty much does it for the getting started portion. Some things that I do want to add in here as a side note, there's some packages that you can install beforehand, and I like to install some packages beforehand just because they will have the tools that I need. So to do that, it's apt get install. And within Debian, they have this wonderful package called build essential. And this package is actually a combination of a lot of building tools. So if you have to compile things, these have the tools, the common tools that are used to build those packages. So you won't get any errors when it comes up. They're looking for, they're looking for GCC, or they're looking for a tar package, and it doesn't have it because you don't have it installed. Build Essential is kind of that catch-all that you want to install, and it will be in there. And I also like to install sudo as well. And if you don't have it, open SSH or SSL, excuse me, because this will install all of the SSL security stuff. So I already have it installed, and I actually misspelt Build Essential. Apt get install Build Essential and sudo. Let's do those two. And you can see here that it wants to install packages. Like I said, these are these packages that will go through and allow you to build things from distributions to what have you. So that will go ahead and install those. So in the future, if I need to ever build anything, that will be available. Now we're going to get into securing the server, which is great because securing things and making sure secure is fantastic. And there's a lot of things that you can do, simple things that you can do to prevent yourself from being a target of somebody who gains unauthorized access to your server. So first off, we don't want to always use root. Root is something that we need to use at the last course, is the last thing that we ever want to do. So we want to add user, and I'll just add my name, Creighton. Why not? Add user Creighton. Oh, I already exist. So let's make another one. Add user example. So we just added the example user. We can set up a password, which is fantastic. And then it might access this new data, but we can just click enter to pass it up. So we don't need a lot of that stuff. So there you go. We have a new user called example. Now we want to add that user to what we call the sudoers, or the people who get the admin level access to the server. So we want to do user mod tac a tac g sudo, and then we used example as the user, so example. So now we added the user to sudo, which allows us to now use those commands, and we can now become that user and use the commands within sudo. So if I were to su to switch user to example, and I can now do sudo apt get update, and it'll ask me for my sudo password, excuse me, and then it'll allow me to use, can't spell today, it'll ask me to use the command, and then it'll allow me. But if I wasn't a sudoer, so if I just did apt get install or apt get update, it would tell me that I cannot use it because I don't have the permissions to do it. So sudo is a great command for giving users the ability to have admin level access. Now from here we can also set up SSH. So SSH is how you access the computer. It's the simplest thing. And there's a lot of things that we can do to be secure. One of the things that I will show in a different video is setting up SSH keys. But right now we're going to assume that we just want to use passwords. So we're going to sudo, and we're going to nano. I like using nano. A lot of people like using vi. A lot of people like using pico. I don't care. I use nano because I know it, and it's very powerful for me, and I know all the commands. So we're going to use sudo nano, which is going to allow us to edit a file. And we're going to edit et SSH and then SSHD _ config. This is the server to be able to access your server. And there's a lot of commands in here and settings that we can set up to secure the server better. And one of the ones that we can do is setting up the port that we access the server on. So for usually, we access it on port 22. Port 22 is a common port. Everybody knows it. And basically, bots can go around on the internet and ping port 22 and say, ooh, this one's open, let me try attacking it to see if I can gain access. So the single strongest thing that you can do, the first line of defense, is changing that port. You can change it to 2200, maybe 222, but some non-common port. So don't use port 80, don't use port 443, don't use anything like that. Something like 2200 maybe is something that you can use. And you'll have to remember that port, because if you try now logging in with port 22, it won't work. So you'll have to enter another port, which will be 2200. Along in here as well is one big thing that will also save your butt, is this permit root login. It's on yes, but we want to change it to no. This means that it will prevent users from logging into your server initially with root. And that means that you'll be free from dictionary attacks and from people who may gain the root access to the server by just getting like a dictionary-based attack. So permitting root login to no. That means that they have to know a user on the server to be able to access it. So they won't know that I have, well, they may know that I use user example, or maybe have my username of Creighton, or whatever have you. So permitting root login to no is one of the biggest things that you can do as well to help secure the server, to make it a little bit better. And then everything else is pretty much can stay where it is. I mean, they set this up to be the best for new users, as well as being secure enough. So From there, we want to do Control and X, which will access if we want to save. We're going to say Y for yes, and then Enter to confirm it. And that is not going to apply the settings just yet. From here, we need to do service. We're going to do sudo service, because I'm not on the root. Sudo service, SSH, restart. And this will restart the client, the server client, so the next time I try to log in, it will only work on port 2200. That is what you can do to kind of be almost bare bones. Another thing is installing a package called fail to ban. So sudo apt get install fail to ban. And what this package does is it will look at people trying to log into your server, and if they have too many errors, they will block that person for a set amount of time. Now, the default values are a great getting started point, and I encourage you to go into the folder where fail to ban is, which is in cd et, and I believe it's fail to ban. There it is. And from here, you can edit the fail to ban conf. If I can spell it right, and I need a sudo nano it too. Sudo nano fail to ban. Oops. So if you don't put it in right, it'll just get you a blank document. And from here, you can change settings, but that's if you're an advanced user. But for, like I said, the bare bones, that is what you want to do. From here as well, we want to set up firewall rules. Now, I'll cover a video with more advanced firewall rules later, but today we're just going to do a basic firewall rules to help yourself be more secure. So we're going to nano et, and we're going to be creating a file. So it's not going to be something that we're editing. It's going to be something that we're going to be creating. So sudo nano et, and we're going to call this iptables.firewall.rules. And this is going to be the file that we're going to refer to when we create firewall rules. From here, we want to enter the IP table firewall rules. Now, in the description down below, I have provided a simple firewall rules that you can use. So I'm going to copy all of this, and we're going to paste it in here. So just a quick kind of thing, I'll tell you what this does. So this allows loopback traffic, which is great when it does internal trafficking. Accept all established connections. It accepts, allows outbound traffic. So this is basic stuff here. One thing that you're going to want to change, that if you changed your SSH port, is you're going to want to come to the allow SSH connections, and under the tac-tac-d port 22, we actually change that to 2200. So we're going to put 2200 there. Everything else, the comments above them have essentially what it does. So it allows people to ping the server, which you can deny that. So if you didn't want people to ping your server, you would just come up to here, instead of tac-j accept, you do tac-j deny, and then it wouldn't allow people to ping your server. But we're going to allow them to do that because that's something that a lot of people do just to check that the server is responding. So other than that, it's basic. So don't read too much into it. But from there, we want to take those firewall rules and we want to implement them within IP tables. And IP tables is a very, very powerful tool to use to prevent people from getting into your server. So to apply these rules, we want to do this. Sudo IP tables tac restore. I like using tab because it works. And then left caret et IP tables.firewall.rules. And what this will do is this will now apply all of our rules into IP tables. And you may throw up some errors, and this is just some commit errors that may fall up, but it has done it, and I've run into this error before for some reason, but it seems to always commit it, so I'm not too worried about that. I think it's just a problem with the package. Now, though, we want to make sure that these rules get applied every time the server starts up. So we're now going to create a startup program for it, which is going to be a sudo nano et network if pre up.d and then firewall. And this will be something that we create, and we want to nano that. And in there, we're going to do a hash bang /bin /bin/sh, excuse me. And this is going to be the command that it runs when everything starts up. So it's going to be sbin /ip tables tab les, because I can't spell, dash restore. Then we're going to do another left caret and we're going to do that same exact path, ip tables .firewall .rules. And from there, you can just do a Control X and a Y and an enter, and that will save it up. And we want to make sure that it is executable. So we're going to need to do a sudo chmod x et network and if pre. So we just the location of that new file that we just created. So there it is. And now it is ready to be executed. So every time the server restarts, it will apply those rules into everything. And that's kind of all of the things that I wanted to show you guys and explain to you guys about kind of getting started and setting up. I know this video might have run long. I'm going to try to keep the other videos that we do a little bit shorter, under 5 minutes, but this one was the getting started phases, and the getting started phases are definitely a little bit longer than the simple commands. So I hope to bring more videos like this to you guys in the future. So let me know if you guys like this or dislike it in the comment section down below. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Creighton Miller, and I'll see you guys in our next video.